She's an Alabama fan, so I'm sitting and I was just like, this is not happening. This is not like, what in the world? And then after it happened, we all just started screaming. Like,
yeah,
same noise, but they're screaming out of anger and we're screaming out of joy.
So we can all agree that 2020 was the worst year, right? Here's what I always said. For Black content creators, it was either sink or swim time. And that's because a lot of us had limited resources, limited opportunities prior to, but we made it work. During that time, I had a special episode of Break It Down with Brian H, where I had all of the Black journalists who were wrestling fans come on and be on the episode, and we had a panel discussion. Well, one of those journalists is my guest today, Briana Jones. Briana is a sports reporter, and I'm very excited for y'all to hear this conversation because she's someone who grew up in Alabama. Family is a huge fan of both the big Alabama teams, and she was often caught in the middle. And now she gets to report on those teams, talk about the dream. So I'm not going to say much more because I want you to hear this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with Briana Jones. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the line today, I'm excited to welcome in the one and only Miss Briana Jones. Briana, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. It is probably about 80 degrees in Birmingham, Alabama right now.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
Yeah, I'm feeling real good. It's hot, but I'm feeling good.
Man, so before we get started, you talked about the weather. You feeling good? Like overall, how you been? How you been lately?
I've been good, man. It's been a whirlwind just the past couple months where I've been zooming and getting acquainted into a new environment. So I mean, I'm doing good. I'm still adjusting to what I do now and my new job and my new area because I moved like 4 hours from where I was. So I think I'm just still getting used to everything, but I'm doing good. I really am. Mentally, I'll say I'm doing good. Day by day, taking it step by step. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Before we really jump in, and it's funny, like a few years ago, this was during the pandemic when it was would have been NABJ week. We did a show. Shout out to our good friend David Deacon Shealy.
yeah,
because he wouldn't put me. He put you on my radar.
Yep.
And he told me I said, I want to do this show, but I want to have Black journalists that's into wrestling. And he said, oh, well, you got to check out Briana. And I was all right, cool. And, we had a good time on that one. We talked like some heavy subjects, but some fun subjects as well.
We did.
Yeah, we got to do that again soon.
Heck yeah.
But, so, like you said, journalist, when did you decide that this was the field that you wanted to get into?
Man, it's so crazy because I feel like for so long I didn't even know what I wanted to do until probably high school, probably like senior year. So I'll rewind back. I was always the girl who was a spokesperson for a class, like in elementary and middle school. Like, I kid you not, the principal would have me do the announcements. I would have to do the pledge. If the news came to our school one time, they wanted me to do the interview. And I didn't see what God was doing at the time. I kind of just was like doing it because I'm a PK. I'm used to speaking in public. I was just like, whatever. I guess they're used to my voice. So it is what it is. I thought that I was going to just have a desk job. In my mind, a desk job mean you made a lot of money. I didn't even know what that looked like, but I was like, I have a desk job, go to school for business administration. And then my senior year, they had this like personality test basically. And you figure out your strengths and weaknesses. And public speaking and communication was like number one for me. I mean, by landslide. And so then my mom was like, well, how do you feel about, being on TV? And I was like, I mean, acting? It's like, no, like, and I was a student athlete. So I was playing basketball too, but I still had never even thought about like reporting on it. And so she was like, I think you should look into journalism. And we toured the college I ended up going to. I had always wanted to go to Auburn, but I ended up going to Troy and I toured that school. And the guy, when he broke down the program and how I could figure out if it was for me by joining the student ran news station, I fell in love with it. And I never let go.
Wow, that's amazing. Now you grew up in Georgia, right?
So I grew up in Georgia, but I spent
Mhm.
majority of my life in Birmingham too. So I've have most half and half, I would say. But I Birmingham is more home to me than Georgia is because I was only there for a short period of time. But
Mhm.
that's where I started school and stuff in Conyers, Georgia. So yeah, they're both home to me.
Gotcha. What does it mean for NABJ to be in Birmingham this year?
Oh my gosh, amazing. Amazing because I remember when we moved back, I'll say to Alabama, because I mean they were already here before I was born or whatever too. But I remember coming back here and I hated Birmingham for so long. And I was just like, I hate this place. It's boring. It's not as fun as Georgia. Like we did more and we would spend summers in Georgia, but like you grow to love the culture here.
Hmm.
Just how like close knit everyone is, the way that the community can come together in certain situations. And since I've been out of Birmingham now for a couple of years, I miss it so much. And so when I heard about NABJ coming, I was just like, such a blessing, so amazing to put Birmingham on the map like this for a city that has not only just civil rights waiting on you to come and tell you that story, but it's so many historical pieces here. So I think it was a great decision.
Awesome. So I want to go back to Troy University. What was some of your highlights in undergrad as far as when you got into the journalism program?
Um, oh man, we Troy being a mid-major school, I think it was a perfect start for me in journalism because I was able to make the mistakes as I'm learning this smaller, I would say, program. Um, but Troy played Duke my sophomore year when Jason Tatum was on the team,
Hmm.
and I got to cover that. The football team beat LSU. I got to cover that. That was, I mean, amazing for us. That was my junior year, I believe. Yeah, junior year is when we beat LSU. Sophomore year, the basketball team played Duke. We beat UAB for the first time. I was able to cover that in basketball. Troy beat Nebraska, and then we technically, and people will argue me down, we technically beat Clemson the year that they won the national championship. They called a touchdown back that actually.
Oh,
So that was the year that they beat Alabama. Like we technically beat them that same year. So I was able to cover just the highlights of the Neil Brown era with the football team, and then some of the highlights of the basketball team too.
and now what made you decide to get your master's in this field? Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, you don't need a master's in communications," but what about you?
I'll have to be honest. I was a part of that group who was told that if I got my master's, I would make more money.
Hmm.
And so that was my mindset is like when I leave, college and I leave my pop's house, I want to be financially stable and have an MS behind my name. I feel like people will respect me more and I would just, my tax bracket is just different from people. Totally wrong. And I'm not encouraging anyone not to go to grad school, but I wish I would have, learned a little bit more about it. It did help me because it did really put me in more of a professional mindset, I would say, as far as the things I had to write and things I had to do for my classes. But that's really what it came down to. Someone was like, yeah, you want to make more money. You need to get your master's. And so I was like, well, okay, sign me up. And I mean, I knocked it out in a year and I am glad I got it. But I was like, looking back, I don't think I needed it right at this moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, the fact that you have it, that's, a blessing right there
Yeah,
because you don't have to worry about going back. Now,
exactly.
now how did you balance? Because you was also working.
Yes.
So how did you balance, especially in the field?
Oh man, during COVID, I was doing so much because funny story. Um, when I was graduating college undergrad, my sports director now was leaving his job and he basically was trying to like put me on and he was like, hey, I'm getting ready to leave. Talk to me, got a job opportunity. It was in Montgomery. And a lot of my family on my grandparents' side, of my maternal grandparents, they're all from Montgomery. And so
Mhm.
I spent plenty of time in Montgomery, but I was like, I do not want to live there. Like, no, I don't want to go there. I was just being too like uppity about the whole situation. I'm like, I don't want to go there. But I mean, he was literally handing me like a sports reporter job. He had saw my work. He liked it in college. And it's so rare to do that for someone to do that. And so I was just like, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I was like, I'm going to just go home, get my master's and work. In my mind, I could find some type of sports job here in Birmingham, Market 44. I don't know what I was thinking. Did not happen. So I ended up working at an insurance company because my mom knew the guy there. And I mean, it was going to pay my bills and my car note and everything. So I started doing that. And then I would do sports on the side where I had my own YouTube channel going. I would go out and shadow one of the guys who I interned with in undergrad at a local station here in Birmingham. And so he would take me to sporting events with him. I would interview people. I would write web stories. I mean, I was doing pretty much working, just not, full time or officially yet. So yeah, I was trying to balance all of this. And I mean, I can't even explain how I did it. I just put it in my mind to get it done. Like, if you really want this career, and you want to be on ESPN, you want to be on SportsCenter or whatever I wanted to do, you got to make those sacrifices.
Yeah, I commend you on that because going to school, especially in a master's program, like I've did it as a an undergrad, but in a master's program, woo,
It's tough. It's a lot of writing, and that's one thing that I love to write. But
mm-hmm.
like, you're having to write on certain topics, especially ones you're learning about at the same time. Like, you want me to give you 10 pages on something you just taught me about. I'm like, how in the world am I going to do that? But I mean, the research like that, it really helps your professional aspect because you're like, you have to learn even in the sports world before I get to talking about someone or a player or a team. That research has to be like extensive. Like, I need to be able to tell you more than just what everyone else is watching right now. I should be able to bring up facts from a couple years ago too to back up what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, what was your highlight in the master's program?
Probably, I wish I could tell you the name of a book I had to read and like redo. I can't even remember now because I mean, I washed everything from school out my mind. But I know I had to do like it was based around an historically black college or program. I want to say program. I don't think it was a college because I probably would remember. Some program that was going on at the time about mental health. I was able to write a story about that and how it spoke to me. Just growing up black and how limited resources and then the lack of discussion about mental health. I'm glad that it's like a thing now on social media. You see it a lot. But to be able to write about that in my personal experience, I think that was the best highlight for me because I felt so good after writing it. I'm like, I could have went longer than 10 pages and just be able to talk about how mental health was not a conversation growing up in like K through 12 at all.
Nah, you not lying about that. Like I started therapy in December 2021. November, like the end of November, December 2021. And it's definitely shifted my life.
Yeah.
It's been helpful. What the worst thing that happened was my therapist got a new job, so I had to get another therapist. So it's like, because you build that rapport and that relationship with them,
Yeah.
then you got to regurgitate all the information you talked about at the end of the session, and then the beginning of the next session. It's like that right there can send you to a whole nother way.
It really can. It really can.
But I'm a huge advocate for mental health, and no, it's not like my sister's a mental health specialist, so she's worked in the field. But yeah, I'm one who always like encourages people to seek therapy, just to even if you don't think nothing's wrong, you don't
Yeah.
realize how much stuff you hold in just because you can't tell everybody about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Do you think how much you ever think about like what if you would have done that while in college, throughout your years or even in high school?
I would be, well, I say that I wouldn't be the woman I am now had I not gone through the journey I went through, but I just think that process and that journey would have looked a little different. And I think I probably would have been more prepared for the real world for sure, because I just hate that I didn't hear a lot of times people tell you to like take a break or check in. Like, it just wasn't a conversation. It was like always grind, get a job, work. And I mean, I know in the Black community, it's just so common for us to tell our children, like, yep, time for you to get a job. You need to get a job. Like, I had my first job when I was 16 and I was upset with my mom for a very long time that I felt like I had to choose working over basketball in order to keep my car. Or like, I didn't like that feeling for a while because I was just like, I mean, I have all my life to work.
Yeah.
And so if I would have had more conversation about mental health and that check-in, I think it would have been different for me to, even at a young age, really decide what I felt good doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and still respect my mom at the same time to say like, hey, let's talk about this and why I personally don't like this or whatever. And just have more time to breathe and self-care. I was not doing any of that. So like now I'm making my business. I will put that phone on do not disturb so quick. And people,
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm like, I will call you back later or tomorrow.
Did you? So you gave up basketball to work in high school?
My junior year,
Mm-hmm.
I had sprained my ankles and they were awful. So I kind of was leaning towards chilling out for a minute anyway. And I mean, I would have been able to come back, but it would have been later. But yeah, my mom kind of gave me that decision and was like, well, she didn't give me a decision. She told me I had to work because I got my car and I got my license that summer. And she was like, yeah, if you want to drive this car, you need to pay this insurance. So you need to get a job. And I was kind of like, okay. So by senior year, I think she's forgiving me for this now, but I was sneaking and playing basketball behind her back because I loved it so much. And I was working at the same time. I was working, playing basketball. I played on the summer team. My mama had no idea. And I would come home like nothing happened.
Wow.
It was nuts. I mean, I remember
Ball
her
is
finding
life.
out. I was just like, she found out a week before senior night. So I dang near played that whole season. And the only person that knew was my granddad.
Wow, man. He couldn't advocate for you?
I think he just didn't want to get it. You know, he didn't want it to be a messy situation. But again, looking back and knowing what I know now, I definitely would have had him advocate more and get involved more. And I would have spoke up more because that was my passion. Like at the time, all I wanted to do was play basketball. I really didn't want to do anything else. And I would have been okay not having a car if I could still play basketball. Like seriously. But I just felt like the car was my claim to fame. Like I was one of the only friends in my group to have a car first. So I was kind of like, oh, I'm going to lose my friends. Like I need the car and I want to be cool. But like looking back, I'm like, bro, I wish I could have said I played in college because I played all 4 years and I sat that 1 year out. And I feel like it just damaged so much that I had going on already.
So is that what led you to get into sports commentary?
Yeah, it was a big decision behind it because of how much I loved it. I grew up in a house where every day, if we're not watching the news, we're watching some sporting event. Every Saturday when we get done cleaning, we are watching a football game, we're watching a basketball game. And it's like me and my brother, I mean, that's all we did all the time. That's who got me into wrestling is my brother. Like I just would sit around him and soak up like a sponge everything that he was doing. And it just became my norm where even when he wasn't around, I'm watching wrestling, I'm watching basketball, I'm watching football. And so I just loved it so much to like keep it in my career.
What up? It's your boy Blue Magic, owner of For Your Wear and one half of the Mixed Tag Show. Now, I know you've seen the announcements from some of your favorite podcasters in wrestling. I've decided to expand my business to become a vendor so that people from the wrestling community have a better way to communicate with some of their favorites. So check out foryourwear.com and see if your favorite podcaster or wrestler has partnered up with me. If not, let them know that they should. Also, if you're looking for a vendor for your merchandise, reach out to me at Blue Magic Grind, spell how it sound on Twitter or Instagram, or at For Your Wear, FORURWEAR, on Twitter and on Instagram. Shout out to Brian H. Waters and Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Their merchandise are already up, and they're one of the first one that's supported, so go support them. All right? Peace.
So I got to ask you, you brought up wrestling. What's your first wrestling memory?
Oh. Well, you know what? And I have to say sorry to my granddad because he actually was who got me into wrestling. I think my brother just continued it because we did moves on each other. So I started watching wrestling when I still lived in Georgia with my granddad. And I would say, I can't give you a specific memory, but something involving The Rock. My granddad always brings up, he says, I remember one day you were in the room playing with like a church friend. And he said he came in there and I was screaming, The Rock just took his shirt off, Poppy. He just took his shirt off. So like I'm fangirling over that, but like literally just glued to the freaking TV. But probably him and Stone Cold going at it. There's no telling. But I was crazy about The Rock back then. Crazy.
Did you watch Young Rock?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I literally sat there too, like everything about this man. I love him, and I mean, it was good. It was good to see his journey before wrestling too, because I knew bits and pieces of it from what I had read, of course. But like him being able to tell that story, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I've been watching. I'm mad that I just finished the season finale, and I'm like, I need more. Like the half hour isn't enough. Huh?
Right. That's what I'm like. He needs to keep going because it really is good and it's funny too. I love that it's just not like a real deep, hard story. Like it's legit funny. Like
and I just started reading this book. But now when I picture, like when you know how you read and you picture things, I'm picturing the characters from Young Rock.
Yeah.
Even though like this was written in like 99, 2000 around time when he was his first title run. But I'm always thinking about like the guy who, when he says like he got into a fight growing up, I'm thinking about the scenes from the TV show and everything. Like like I went back and watched the Hall of Fame induction when Rocky Johnson went in and High Chief Peter Maivia went in, and they, you know, like at WrestleMania they do the walkthrough and like at the stage. So like seeing the grandmother and the mother, like they're the real life people, but I'm thinking of the characters, and even the grandmother had like the show is casted so well that it's like so much fun to watch.
The grandma in Young Rock was probably my favorite character, just because she was about her business, and I feel like everybody knew not to mess with her, like woman or not. Like you're not going up against her at all. Like handling her business from way back when.
Absolutely. Now, do you remember your first sports memory, or like something like growing up and sports moments that you share with your family?
Mine is probably something basketball related. My brother was a Celtics fan, so I would watch, and I always been a Bulls fan because of MJ and Derrick Rose. But
okay, now that it makes sense why you have a Knicks shirt on.
Yes, Rose is on the back. I am not a Knicks. I am not, because someone just asked me that too. Like, why are you wearing a Knicks? I'm like, Derrick Rose is on the back. Trust and believe. Yeah, so I would say probably Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, all of their last NBA championship would probably be the like my first just moment of realizing like how much I love sports, and because I was able to watch that come into fruition with him. For my family though, altogether, because I spent most of my time in Alabama. Auburn and Alabama, the rivalry is just deep here. It is rooted. It is crazy. And so literally half of my family is rooting for Auburn, half is rooting for Alabama. So the kick six that everyone talks about, I witnessed that at my grandma's house, sitting on the ground, watching them scream at each other. And like, it's just always in my head. My grandma's a huge Alabama fan. So she lost her voice screaming about that game. And I'm like, even Cam Newton's era, those are moments that I can just remember us being together watching happen. But yeah, that kick six game, still crazy.
So a lot of stuff to unpack here, because this is fun. So first off, which side do you fall on, Auburn or Alabama?
Okay. As a journalist who covers both of those teams, I'm going to remain unbiased, but I will be honest and say I grew up an Auburn fan.
Okay.
So I was an Auburn fan all through high school. So I'm probably on the Auburn side more than Alabama, but I respect Nick Saban more than anyone. So
like one of my best friends, Andrea, she from Mobile, huge Alabama fan, and what was it 2018? No, 2018. I remember the 2019 championship. Like I was trolling her. And then like the next year, I was like, all right, I give up. I'm roll tide, whatever. But when you brought up the kick six, so that was when that was my, if like you talk about like big moments, that was the first big moment that I remember being a part of at ESPN. I had started there that September, and as November, I came home for Thanksgiving. Before I came home, I remember there was a girl on my in the same office that I was working, huge Auburn fan. And then it was like some of my other friends who were like LSU fans, when they always talk about we ride for the SEC, but except Alabama, So everybody was like, I was surrounded by was Auburn fans. So I was like, all right, cool, well, I'm rooting for them. And I remember that night watching the game, and when the moment happened, I was like, wow, and because I was a Cam Newton fan, I became a Cam Newton fan because of the hype. So that's how I am with college football. Like whoever's like the hype, I'm like, and then the black quarterback. That's when I became a Cam Newton fan, and then just followed through his NFL career. Yeah. So when the moment the kick six happened, I was like, wow, this is great. But it was the highlight of the year that, or the highlight of the month, highlight of the year. So to say, like at ESPN, when you win highlight of the month, it's all over the campus. So to say I've seen that play a gazillion times. You're probably like the only person who's seen it more than me and people work at ESPN because you're down there and you covered. But it was like I almost can remember the call, even when they showed the call. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
I was just sitting there like quiet as a mouse, like because I knew I was like, if I say something, my grandma's going to put me out her house because I mean she's an Alabama fan, so I'm sitting there and I was just like, this is not happening. This is not happening. Like, what in the world? And then after it happened, we all just started screaming, like, same noise, but they're screaming out of anger and we're screaming out of joy, like crazy. I mean, and I know like social media was kind of starting to boom around that time, so I'm like, but I mean, it was just
Was the game a tie? Was the game a tie? And he was going to win it?
Tie going in, and they had 1 second.
Right.
1 second. And I can't remember, because I believe they thought that Nick Saban wasn't going to allow them to get that ball back some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what happened right now because I'm going to have to go back and look at it. I know people will be like, come on, girl, you being a journalist in here. But I just remember the moment. And I mean, we just did an Iron Bowl special and we mentioned it. But I remember something was supposed to happen where Auburn was not supposed to get the ball back anyway. So when it happened, it was just like, what the heck? And of course, people were mad at Nick at the time. And I was just like sitting there, like, just my mouth. I couldn't do anything. My mouth just dropped. Like, this is really happening.
Yeah, I remember earlier that year, he froze out Johnny Manziel, where Johnny Manziel didn't get the ball back. So I think that's what they was trying, like, he was going to do the same thing, which essentially he did, except the guy missed the kick and Chris Davis took it to the house.
Bro, like, nuts. Like, those are that you're just like, you don't expect this stuff to happen. Anything can happen, but I mean, like, that was a year I just thought Bama was going to win. That was going to be the end of that. And when it happened, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, 1 second left. No.
And, because that led to Jameis Winston winning the championship.
Yep.
Because we probably would have gotten Alabama versus Florida State.
Yep.
Now, you talked about basketball, and you just triggered me because you brought up the 08 Celtics. And I'm so triggered. So you could clearly tell who I'm a fan of.
I know,
but but so that was like the first time you really like witnessed your brother like have his sports glory.
Yes, I remember him having Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo. I mean, he had a Allen Iverson jersey too, but like he was decked out with a different color jerseys. Paul Pierce, and I was into basketball, but I was kind of learning it through him. Okay. And so seeing like how much he loved it at the time had me like intrigued. Like, why do you love basketball so much? But when we watched that story, and we would go on YouTube and watch interviews from them afterwards and just really get into like that era and like what they built in Boston, it was crazy. And I still wasn't a fan of the team, but I was just like, this is why basketball is what it is. Like, that was a time to be alive. Seriously.
2010 was so much better. Well, see, because like my godbrother's a huge Celtics fan, and he would always Paul Pierce, the truth. I'm like, okay, and I'm like, man, I still think he was very much so faking when he did that wheelchair spot. He wanted to have his ESPN moment, but nonetheless,
I'm a Bulls fan, so you don't even have to be mad at me. It's just
I feel you.
I am a Bulls fan, and we have not had any type of good thing going for us since Derrick Rose left. That was the closest.
Wasn't a rumor that he was going to come back?
I know for a fact he wants to retire there. So, I
Right.
mean, I'm sure he is, but it's just like the role that he would have to come back in.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
he
hurt me when he
started
got traded.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I mean, it's bigger than basketball. You know what I mean? And like right now, the Ravens, as we record this, hasn't come to an agreement with Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And I've made it very clear, if they do not re-sign Lamar Jackson, I don't care if I've been a Ravens fan longer than he was born. If they do not re-sign him, I'm done. Because of what he means to the city of Baltimore. You don't find somebody like that. Like, I would argue that he always felt more approachable than Ray Lewis. Like, Ray Lewis felt like a celebrity. Lamar Jackson, you tweet about a good chicken box, he gonna go there and then tweet about it and put the people over. Like, he loves this place. So, that's one of the things. Now, how cool is it to be able to work in, the state that you grew up in?
It's amazing because when I graduated undergrad, or really grad school, in my mind, I always wanted to go to Tennessee. So I'm a Titans fan. But I always wanted to go to Tennessee. We don't even have to talk about us either.
I don't hate them no more, but boy, Derrick Henry.
My team right now. We're going through some things. So yeah, I always wanted to go to Tennessee. I actually wanted to go to Knoxville first, and that's how me and David kind of got acquainted. I was following his career. I had reached out to him, and I had a girl who I graduated with who was at his station at the time too. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to Knoxville. If I can't get to Knoxville, and cover UT, then I'll go to Tennessee somewhere. I wanted to go to Memphis to work with the Grizzlies. I wanted to go to Nashville, be with Titans, or Vandy. I didn't care. I just wanted to go to Tennessee. So I think when it didn't happen that way, and I ended up going to Huntsville, which I never would have imagined. My uncle's a police officer there, so I kind of had visited, but I had never really hung out in Huntsville like that. And I just always saw Huntsville as like a nice little town, but not much opportunity. I was so wrong. I was at the time, I was a production assistant at the station here that I interned at, Channel 13, and I had applied just on a whim, just like we're gonna see, and they kind of gave me the job on the spot, like, "Oh, you work at an NBC station right now? Like, you already kind of know how we do stuff, so like, yeah, come on." And nice. I got into that, and so to be able to stay was so important because I was still close to family. But I'm talking about teams that I've watched my entire life. Like, and even now when I go to an Alabama game and I'm on the field with these players and literally sitting in a room with Nick Saban, it's surreal because as a kid, I'm watching all this on the big screen. I'm watching my family talk about it, but I'm actually in that realm now. And I think it's absolutely crazy. Like, this is what it's all about. This is what makes it special. As much as I wanted to leave, I'm glad I did stay because I'm enjoying this moment.
I mean, it's certainly the dream. And, that's something like as you talk about being so close to your family, it's what they pray for, that you can live out your dreams and your purpose. What's it been? What was their reaction?
So I would say when I first went to Huntsville, they were excited, but I took a producer job in Huntsville first. So I think they were still like, we were just waiting for me to break into sports. Now, the sports director there, my mentor to this day, thank God for him, was giving me some on-air opportunities. So I did a couple things on there and I was able to cover a lot of games and stuff like that. But they were definitely excited that I was there and I was in the same city as my uncle. But they were all just like, okay, well, when's she going to get her on-air job? Like, when is it happening? So then almost 2 years later when it actually happened, and I'm telling them, yep, so I'm on the Florida-Georgia line, but I am still in Alabama. They were like ecstatic. Like, this is really happening. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have any like fun Nick Saban memories of like y'all interactions?
So when who was it that they played? Was it Mississippi State? No. Oh my gosh, what game was it? Whatever game, and it was this past season where he got cut. Was that the Iron Bowl? It might have been the Iron Bowl. my mind because my mind is on high school basketball now. But
No, that's
every
understandable.
game he got cut because Kool-Aid fell into him. Kool-Aid went to my high school. Kool-Aid McKinstry went to Pinson Valley. So Kool-Aid ran into the sideline and he got cut and was bleeding. And he comes into the room and it's just like, well, you see me, you should see the other guy. Hilarious. Because I think everyone always sees Nick Saban and like when he's shutting someone down. And I remember before getting into this and watching the interview with him and Maria Taylor and how he kind of was like, you guys keep asking me. And I told my girl, I was like, I couldn't imagine Nick Saban talking to me like that. Like, you're not meant to talk to me like that. But I always felt like I was going to be like scared of him and fear him. And I'm like, I don't want to ask the hard questions to him because he may be mean to me. And I'm like, he means business. And I can respect that. But like seeing him in those funny moments when he jokes with us, those are all of those will be my highlights. But that was the funniest thing ever because his face was legit bleeding. And he's like, oh, you should see the other guy. And we're like, Nick is up there in age. So we're legit like, are you okay? Are you good?
Yeah.
And then anything with Coach Cadillac, I am the biggest Coach Cadillac stan. I absolutely love that man. I have a picture with him and his wife on my Instagram. Anything with him too. But yeah, love it.
Man, that's amazing. So as you progress in your career, is Alabama a place you want to stay and like become like the, one of the sports faces there? Or do you see yourself branching out more? Like, what do you want to do?
So I definitely want to leave Alabama.
Okay.
Right now, I actually was talking to my sports director and I'm glad I can be so transparent with him. I told him, I was like, yeah, so after here, I think I want to go home one more time. I think I want to come to Birmingham one more time because just being with my dad and my grandparents and just they're older and I feel like I want to spend a little more time with them. And the market is higher. So, I mean, it would be great for my career to come here. It's just the sports industry here is a little tricky because, in local news, I feel like sports is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Like they're pretty much about to kick it out at this point. And the sports teams here have been here, before I was born. So it's hard to try to break into that. The only good thing is I know the area and I grew up. I feel like I would be great assets to any team. But I said that I would want to come home for maybe 1 to 2 years. But I think my ultimate goal is to leave Alabama. And like I said earlier, I was always set on Tennessee and Nashville. I still would love to be there and I would love to retire there and raise my kids there, but I'm so open on where I want to go now. Anywhere that I'm happy doing what I love every day, even if I have to sacrifice, having to learn a new community and gain new friends, because I did it in Huntsville. I did it now in Dothan. And so wherever I have to go and just be happy with what I'm doing, I'm fine. But yeah, eventually I want to leave.
Got you. Now, before we get out of here, I always ask everybody this question, and I'm going to ask you, when you look back at your career and you think about everything you've done, when did you break through the glass ceiling? And when did you have that moment where you realize, like, I'm pretty good at this. I'm living in my purpose. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
September 2022, when I got this on-air job, it just highlighted so much for me because I was told by managers that would never happen for me. And it was crazy to harp on when it happened because I remember even talking to my manager because I had to tell her that I was applying because the station that I'm at now was owned by my old station. So, I mean, where they're all under the same company. And she was kind of like, yeah, I don't see you doing that. Like, you'll probably be a news director or you'll probably be like me. You think you want to be on air, but you really don't. And I just think you should stay as a producer. And when it happened and I realized that people were believing in me as a producer because of me putting out content that wasn't even going on air. It was content I was just putting on my social media to be seen. And that was a different type of grind because like, I remember it was a guy at a competitor station DM me and said, I see you working, you grinding. Like people who just didn't even know me were commenting on how hard they saw me working. And they would legit be like, what are you doing at this game? Because I was asking for media credentials to every single game, even though none of my content is going to be on air. I went to a Tennessee Titans practice and recorded myself just talking about the practice. and posting that stuff on LinkedIn and posting it on air. And so my sports director now, and I was like, he saw so much in me that I didn't even realize I had. And I was like, this is like shutting everyone up. Like, don't tell me that I can't do it, because I mean, now you see. And so now when I get messages from people in the community in Dothan, we just love Briana. She's the best sports reporter. She's this. I haven't gotten a mean message yet. And so I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm in the room. I'm in the conversation. Like, and it's only up from here now.
I love to hear that, Briana. I'm so proud. I'm so happy we was able to connect during the pandemic. It's one of the few, people always talk about the negativity and all the negative stuff with obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
But, I always say, especially for like a lot of us Black content creators, there was a sink or swim moment, and we swam big time. And like to hear your story, to hear about, the grind of you working as a producer, but still doing your own thing, still putting content out that's not going to air, but it's the sacrifice. And I hope like everybody listening who want to do something, they take that and let it stick with them. So, I'm proud of you and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, they scheduled SummerSlam as the same time as NABJ.
Oh, man.
And so I'm like, so I ain't gonna be able to. I was set for like the past year and a half. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Alabama. I'm going to Birmingham. I told my friend Andrea, I said, yeah, just keep this date lined up. Or, I'll be down there. Nope. So I won't be in NABJ this year. But
I'll be on my phone back and forth. Like, there's no way I'm about to miss. I don't want to miss either one. I mean, the good thing for me is like not having to get a hotel and everything. So I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to some of the events but there's no way. And especially being in the same city where my brother is, he's going to be like, so you coming over? We're going to watch it? Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
It'll be a back and forth for me. I'm like, yeah, I may not go out because got SummerSlam on, or can we go to a bar that's watching it? But that probably won't be a thing because nobody's about to pay for it. So comfort of my own home watching it. So.
Yeah, I'll be working that week, so into SummerSlam. So I was like, man, last year worked out. I had to go to Nashville and then came home for a day and then flew to Vegas because I had to go to be on the Spotify recruiting we had a booth. So that was fun. But this year I'm like, oh man, why y'all put it at the same time? And it's like right near my birthday weekend. So but yeah, so I was like, dang, so I ain't even gonna get a chance to link up with you in that capacity. But hopefully one day soon.
We will.
Yeah. What's let the people know where they can find you.
So I am on all social media, folks, at Briana JTV. Briana with one N, because some people always do two N's. So it's Briana with one N, Briana JTV, literally Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I really don't add too many people on Facebook. I try to keep Facebook as my family thing, but I have a professional Facebook that's just Briana Jones, WTVY, and then LinkedIn also. So, and I'm on TikTok as Briana JTV. So any of those, connect, we can talk, any questions, I'm down for it.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Briana Jones. Briana, I'm so proud. Thank you for coming on. Folks, remember you can get shirts Breaking Through Glass Ceilings on foryourwear.com. Also remember you can save 10% on Symphony of Balloons just by mentioning that you heard about it right here on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. And remember, do not let anyone set a ceiling above your success. So long, everybody. Thank you for listening to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You can support this podcast by going on foryourwear.com. Go to personalities and see Brian H. Waters. There you can get Breaking Through Glass Ceilings t-shirt or a hoodie, as well as a No Ceilings Above Success t-shirt. Go to foryourwear.com. Make sure you also check out some of the other podcasters and professional wrestlers as well.